Okay, here we go. So the first team I'm interested in is a team that currently has World Series aspirations, and that's the Baltimore Orioles, currently 81-60 as of right now, first place in the American League East. They've looked very good this year. A couple of bumps lately in the last few weeks, but I think this team is going to be very good in the postseason. But for this coming off season, I think they are very interesting. Now, taking a look at their current estimated luxury tax payroll, you're looking at $128.7 million, which is well below the CBT, and they have a bunch of club options here. You got Eloy Jimenez, you got Craig Kimbrell, Sir Anthony Dominguez, you got Ryan O'Hearn, Colombi, Perez, potentially coming off the books if they don't exercise those club options. But another thing to think about too is the Orioles just got new ownership, and it seems like they're okay with maybe spending a few bucks here and there. So I am very, very interested to see what the Orioles do this upcoming offseason. And the biggest name on the pitching side of things is Corbin Burnes. Now, he's having himself a very solid season. ERA at a 3.19, FIP at a 3.66, over 28 starts so far. Corbin Burnes is going to be highly sought after. I imagine there's going to be quite the bidding war for Corbin Burnes this offseason. And listen, I wouldn't be surprised if the Orioles pony up the money for, say, a 7 or 8 year deal. Like I just showed you, they have a lot of flexibility in that payroll, and he has proven himself to be a very solid guy atop the rotation for the Orioles this year. I definitely think they're going to do their best to try and hang on to this guy, because you also got to think too, who's the next guy that's going to be able to step into that ace role? You got Zach Eflin, but he's more of like a 2 or a 3 in a rotation. Sure, you got Grayson Rodriguez there. I definitely think he has a bright future, but is he ready to step into the shoes of Corbin Burnes? So I think they're going to do what they can to hang on to him. If they don't end up hanging on to him, you got some other options out there. Blake Snell, his name was popping up with the Orioles at the trade deadline. It is very, very expected that he is going to opt out of this contract, especially with how good he's pitched in the second half. So I could definitely see the Orioles looking into Blake Snell. I mean, I could even see them still looking into Blake Snell, even if they sign Corbin Burnes, depending on what ownership wants to do there. There's also Max Fried out there. He's been pretty solid this year. And they could also go to the trade market. They have the #1 farm system on Baseball America as of right now. Now, they didn't shell out any of those top prospects at the deadline, but maybe they could do that here this coming off season. You got Garrett Crochet. He was rumored for the Orioles this past trade deadline. So either way, I think the Orioles, they're really going to look into how to make this team even better, even with all that young talent coming up the pipe. Up next, I got the New York Mets, and times are good for Mets fans right now. They've won 7 straight games. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They just swept my Red Sox, for crying out loud. They're playing great baseball as of late. 76-64, tied for the 3rd wild card spot with the Braves. Who saw that at this point in the season? My goodness, no one was really giving this Mets team a chance coming into this year, but they've had a great year. Francisco Lindor having himself an amazing season. A lot of guys stepping up for the Mets this year, but I am very interested to see what they do this upcoming offseason. No matter what ends up happening, even if they fall outside of the playoff picture, they've had themselves a very successful season, and I'm looking for them to keep up that momentum going into this offseason. Now, they have a lot of money coming off the books. So as of right now, their estimated luxury tax payroll is at $358 million, but look at all of these contracts coming off the books. You got Quintana, Severino, Harrison Bader, you got JD Martinez, Brooks Raley, Ottavino, Maton has a club option there. You got Stanek, Winker. I could actually see them maybe bringing Winker back. He's been pretty good for them so far. But don't forget about Sean Manaea. He's probably going to be opting out after this season. He's been very solid for them this year. So you're looking at around $100 million coming off the books. Now, the question is, will the Mets want to get under that CBT? Now, I'm not quite sure what the plan is there. Are they going to want to reset it at some point? I know Steve Cohen has all the money in the world, but I do wonder at some point if they're going to want to reset that luxury tax. We'll just have to wait and see, but we know they have the money. Now, the first order of business is to figure out what you're going to do with Pete Alonso. He's had himself another solid year, hitting .240, on base at a .323, slugging at a .469, 31 home runs, a .122 WRC+. The numbers are a little down from what we've seen over the last few years, but nonetheless, a very solid season. Now, the question is, are they going to hang on to him? Now, we've, been wondering about extension talks here for a while. It doesn't seem like they've ever come really to fruition or gotten close, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up moving on elsewhere. Maybe a team wants to really cash in, get some power into their lineup. Maybe they're more motivated than the Mets to bring him back. We'll just have to wait and see. But if he goes elsewhere, I do wonder if they look to add another bat. And you know the number one target is going to be this guy, Juan Soto, having the best year of his career with the Yankees this year, hitting .295 with a .423 on base, a .592 slugging, a .184 WRC plus, 38 home runs, a 7.7 Fangraph wins above replacement, and he's only just about to turn 26 years old. This guy is going to cost a boatload. You're looking at around probably $500 million, $550 million even, over 13, 14, maybe 15 years. This guy is going to be a lot to sign, but you know Steve Cohen is absolutely frothing at the mouth at the idea of adding Juan Soto, but not just adding Juan Soto, but potentially taking him away from the crosstown rival Yankees. It is going to be a lot of fun to see where this guy ends up. Or they look towards one of these younger guys. Someone like Mark Vientos has really stepped up this year. Maybe they want to give Brett Beatty another chance. They could put him at third, Vientos at first. We'll just have to wait and see. But Pete Alonso, definitely someone to think about. Now, when it comes to the Mets rotations, and like I said, Sean Manaea, he is expected to opt out of this contract after having a very solid year this year. I don't blame him one bit. And Kadai Senga should be back next year. He basically has missed this entire year with all the injuries he's been having. It's going to be interesting to see how they address this rotation. Could they just bring Sean Manaea back on a new contract? I could potentially see that. He's had himself a great year there. Severino, I could maybe see them bringing him back too. But with this rotation, I feel like they need to add something alongside Kadai Senga for next year. So once again, I'll bring up Corbin Burns if they really want to splurge. I mean, this would definitely be that kind of a move. I'll bring up Blake Snell and Max Fried. Once again, you are going to have some cheaper options out there. Maybe they could turn towards some of those guys, and keep your eyes on Roki Sasaki. If he does end up getting posted this offseason, I would imagine the Mets are going to be all in on trying to get him there. We'll just have to wait and see. But overall, for this Mets team, I mean, listen, they've had themselves a fun year, and they are definitely looking to keep up that pace going into next year. And getting back to the pitching, they have a lot of young talent coming up, including Brandon Sproat. He's been amazing this year. He has risen up the prospect boards this year. I would not be surprised at all to see him in the rotation at some point next year. Maybe we could see someone like Blade Tidwell. He was really good at AA this year. He's had his struggles at AAA, so we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. Don't forget about Christian Scott. He's had himself some good moments this year. So they do have some young pitching. In the end, I just wonder, are they going to add something else to this rotation to go atop the rotation with Kadai Senga? But the Mets, they're always interesting to pay attention to. Let's see what they do this offseason. Excuse Draftneck Robbie, but I got to talk about my Red Sox here. And even if I wasn't a Red Sox fan, I'd still be very intrigued to see what the Red Sox are going to do this coming offseason. As for right now, they were looking fun there for a little bit, but they've come back down to earth here in the second half. 5.5 back in the wild card race. Their chances of the postseason are pretty much done at this point. But go back to last offseason, Red Sox fans were up in arms. They were thinking, why the heck are we not spending money? Why are we not going after any of these free agents? Why aren't we making any moves? Well, the big reason for that was the Red Sox, they're waiting on a lot of these prospects to get close to Major League ready. They're waiting for that next core of young talent to be Major League ready. And if you take a look at Marcelo Mayer, Roman Anthony, and Kyle Teal this year, they have been absolutely amazing. Along with Christian Campbell, he's come out of nowhere this year. He has flown up prospects boards this year. So I wonder if this offseason is the one where the Red Sox pull the trigger with all this young talent starting to emerge. I mean, we saw some young talent emerging this year. Ceddanne Rafaela being one example. Wilyer Breu's had himself a great year. Tristan Casas was hurt a lot this year, but there's a lot of potential in the bat moving forward, as well as Jarren Duran and Rafael Devers, who've both been amazing in this lineup this year. A couple of guys in the pitching staff. I mean, there's a lot to be excited for with the Red Sox. So I wonder if they go out there this offseason and go make some moves. And they got some money coming off the books as well. Kenley Jansen, I don't see them bringing him back. Probably not Chris Martin either. Luis Garcia, they traded for him at the deadline. I don't see him coming back. Don't forget about Tyler O'Neill, Nick Pivetta. You got Danny Jansen as well. Lucas Sims, I don't think they're going to come back. Maybe Pivetta could come back on like some kind of a 2-year deal. Maybe you could bring back Tyler O'Neill, but I wonder if the Red Sox look elsewhere here. There's a lot that you can do with this lineup. They're very lefty heavy, so I wonder if they address that in some way. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them maybe looking to moving the contract of Masataka Yoshida. He's hit really well here in the second half, but he's pretty much a DH at this point, and he's not really, like a David Ortiz out there. I mean, he's I think a good hitter, but when it comes to just being a DH, I would like to have a bit more thump at that position, and Alex Cora values versatility as well. Masataka Yoshida, when it comes to the outfield defense, there's not a whole lot there. Hasn't played him really at all in the outfield this year. Maybe that can change this offseason. Maybe they could take a new approach going into 2025. We'll see. Maybe they can work on some things, but I would not be surprised in the slightest to see Yoshida's name come up. What additions could they end up making? I do expect them to be in the Corbin Burns sweepstakes. I brought him up a couple of times already, but if they are ready to open up the checkbook, I could definitely see them being involved here for Corbin Burns. Take a look at the rotation here. Tanner Houck, he's really emerged this year. He has stepped up in a big way. Is he that starting pitcher 1 in your rotation? Is he more of a 2? I think you could maybe debate that. I think if you brought along Corbin Burns here to go with him in that rotation, I think that would be fantastic to go along also with Brian Bayo, who took some ups and downs this year. He took some shots this year, didn't quite take that step forward this year. I'm expecting more out of him for next year. Cutter Crawford looked good in the first half, second half not so much. So I feel like there could be the possibility of the Red Sox adding something for this rotation. That was a big talking point last year. Not a lot of people expected the Red Sox to be this good with the pitching this year. Andrew Bailey came in and really just turned things around there. If not Corbin Burns, once again, I'll bring up Garrett Crochet. I just mentioned all these prospects, right? You got all of these guys that are just knocking on the door, but they got some other guys in this minor league system as well. Maybe, you could possibly look into maybe someone like a Christian Campbell, who did come out of nowhere this year. Maybe Roman Anthony. I don't know about that one. I mean, he's looking really special. Maybe you could do something there to get a deal done for Garrett Crochet. I don't think it's completely impossible. But for the Red Sox, I am very excited to see what they do here. In the end, didn't end up making the postseason here. They're pretty much, at this point, not going to make the postseason unless they go on some kind of a miracle run. I don't see it happening, but they had some fun moments this year. Definitely looking to see how they build upon that for this offseason. Up next, I got the Detroit Tigers. Myself and many others were expecting the Tigers to take a big step forward this year. Instead, they wildly underperformed. They're 71-70 as of right now. They're 5 back in the wild card race. They are playing a little better as of late, but it might be too little too late for the Tigers here in 2024. But I think they have a bright future. As of right now, Baseball America has them ranked as the number 6 farm system in all of Major League Baseball. They have a lot of young talent in this organization, both at the Major League level and in the minor leagues. Riley Green has had himself a very solid year. Now, Colt Keith, was a little up and down there in the first half, but he has looked a little better in the second half. Jace Young, good hitter, had a good year down in the minor leagues. I'm expecting a lot from him. Trey Sweeney looked pretty good after coming over from the trade from the Dodgers, and he's already up at the Major League level. Now, Spencer Torkelson, he got sent back down after a lot of struggles in the first half of this year. Has looked a little better since coming back up. Let's see if he can take that step forward for next year. And don't forget about Dylan Dingler. This is a guy, he's their future catcher, in my opinion. He had himself a good year down in the minor leagues too. And in the rotation, you got a lot of young pitching here. Tarek Skubal, I think he's going to end up winning the Cy Young. And then you got Ty Madden, who just came up this year. Casey Mize, he came back from injury this year. He's looked pretty good. So there is a lot to be excited about already at the Major League level. And then in the minor leagues, Jackson Jobe has looked electric this year down in the minor leagues. Already mentioned Jace Young here. Tyrone Lorenzo has looked a lot better, like Trey Sweeney after coming over from the Dodgers there. So there's a lot to be excited for. And also Max Clark, he's having himself a great year. Still pretty far away though. But either way, the Tigers, there's a lot of young talent. Now, getting back to Tarek Skubal here, he has looked amazing in this rotation. The Tigers have had a lot of good pitching this year. I do expect them to get into this market in free agency, or maybe they use some of these prospects to try and get a trade done out there somehow. Now, Corbin Burns, do I expect the Tigers to go out there and spend that much money for Corbin Burnes. I'm not quite sure about that. Maybe they could take a flyer on someone like a Blake Snell, Max Fried. We'll just have to wait and see on that. But most importantly, I think the Tigers, their main struggle this year has been the offense. Now, again, like I said, you got a lot of young talent here. You got a lot of good young bats potentially for the future, but I expect them to add something. Could they maybe look into someone like Alex Bregman, right? Has that connection with AJ Hinch. Maybe Jace Young can move somewhere, and I'm not sure how they would figure that, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them add something there, or maybe an outfield bat, maybe like Tyler O'Neill, maybe someone like an Anthony Santander. I could see something like that. Either way, though, the future is bright for the Tigers, and I think they need to capitalize on that as they're going into this window. They got some momentum here at the end of the year to finish things off, so I say keep that going in the offseason, make some signings, and make this team very good for 2025. And last but not least, the team I'm most excited for this offseason are the Washington Nationals. Man, oh man, I need to see what the Nationals do this coming offseason. I think they're going to have a very good offseason for a few good reasons. Number one being they already got a couple of young electric bats up at the major league level. Their top prospects, James Wood and Dylan Cruz. James Wood has looked phenomenal this year since coming up. Dylan Cruz has already had a couple of good moments since coming up as well. Those two are going to be the cornerstones of the franchise for years to come, alongside C.J. Abrams, who's on pace for a 2030 season. Not a bad year, if you ask me. Jacob Young has really stood out this year. I mean, I'm excited for the future of the Washington Nationals. Now, when it comes to the pitching side of things, they definitely have some good things going on here. You got Mackenzie Gore, who's had himself a solid year, Jake Irvin, Mitchell Parker, you got DJ Herz in here. But the one guy I want to pay attention to is Patrick Corbin. No, I'm not saying Patrick Corbin is going to lead them to the promised land. I'm saying Patrick Corbin is finally coming off the books. He's getting paid $35.4 million this year. They are finally going to be out of that contract. So I think they're going to go out there and they're going to spend some money. And I'm sorry, I'm going to bring up Corbin Burnes one more time. I think that would be a great fit. Corbin Burnes already said he's going to be looking at teams that have a bright future when it comes to his choice for this offseason. The Nationals, they have really loaded up this farm system, like I already mentioned, with Dylan Cruz and James Wood. But you got Brady House coming up the pipe. He's looking pretty solid down in the minor leagues. You got Travis Sikora, who just emerged into the top 100 prospects on Pipeline this year. Jarlin Susana, he's an intriguing guy to pay attention to. Don't forget about Cade Cavalli, Alex Clemmy. They brought him over in the Lane Thomas trade. So yeah, there's a lot of potential here with Washington. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Corbin Burnes maybe take a look just like Max Scherzer did not too long ago. And once again, I'll bring up Blake Snell. I wouldn't be surprised at all with Max Fried if he were to go to another team in division. I mean, yeah, I brought up the Mets. Maybe that would be funny to see him go to the Mets. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him go to a up and coming team like the Nationals as well. So that's the one area I think for the Nationals they're going to look to improve, is to add something for this pitching staff. Now, Mackenzie Gore, I'm not quite sure if I don't know. I need to see more out of Mackenzie Gore at this point for me to call him an ace of the staff, but I think he could definitely use something to go alongside him in this rotation. Maybe they could add a bat here. I wouldn't be surprised about that, to go along with these young bats that they already have. Either way, though, very excited about the Nationals moving forward. But everyone, that's all I got for this video. Let me know your thoughts about the teams that I talked about in this video. Tell me some other teams that you're excited for this coming offseason. I know you always got, the Dodgers out there, the Yankees looking to spend some big bucks. I wanted to talk about some more up-and-coming teams in this video, but let me know some other teams as well. Who are you excited to pay attention to this offseason? But everyone, that's all I got for this video. If you can on the way out, hit that like button for me, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.